Hey everyone, back with you. I wanted to do a video in kind of a response or a rebuttal to one of my favorite YouTubers. His name is H A Goodman. He has a lot of subscribers. I love HA. I watch him every day. I watch a lot of his videos, and I generally may not agree with him a lot on policy things because he is a progressive. He voted for Bernie Sanders, then Jill Stein. But he is someone who is very intelligent, and he makes a lot of good arguments, and I like him. Even though we're probably policy-wise not on the same sheet of music, I think he's an honest liberal, and he's not a hack. He's not a partisan hack. He calls them as he sees them from his own point of view, which is from a progressive's point of view. And so I love HA. But he did a video yesterday where he was comparing the Cuban Missile Crisis to the situation that's going on now in North Korea. And that's absurd. So I just wanted to do a real quick video to rebut that, not to attack HA or anyone who follows him, but just simply to give another point of view. And so I want to just take a look at a couple of the crucial factors if you're making a comparison between the Cuban Missile Crisis and the situation going on in North Korea. First of all, North Korea does not currently have the ability to strike the United States with a missile, with a non-nuclear or nuclear missile, an atom bomb. They just simply have no ability to strike us. They can't reach the United States of America with their current missile technology. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Russians had placed the SS-20s, which were medium-range nuclear missiles, as well as SS-4 Sandals, which were long-range missiles, capable of hitting targets everywhere in the United States. The missiles that Cuba had placed on that island, which is 90 miles from the coast of the United States, could have hit cities all across the United States in anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes. Florida, about 3 minutes. Washington State, about 5-6 minutes. The SS-4s could have reached there. They could have killed 150 million people. We would not have been able to respond to the missiles they had there. We didn't have the types of systems back then that would knock down their missiles or anything like that. The only thing we could do back then is have an exchange. So in terms of whether or not the capability was there for the North, or is there for the North Koreans to hit the United States, it simply isn't there. But the Russians' nukes down in Cuba were absolutely capable of hitting cities everywhere in the United States and killing over 100 million people and pretty much destroying the country as well. So there's absolutely no comparison there. The leaders. Well, Kim Jong-un is, as I said, a demonic Teletubby. And he is a nut. He is a complete whack job. Everyone knows it. Even the Chinese know it. The man is not sane. He's not like his father. He's not like his grandfather. When his father and grandfather saber-rattled, it's because they wanted us to give them something. And the way it always worked is they would start talking and things like that, making some threats, and we would call them up and say, okay, what's going to take to shut you up? Well, we send some grain, send some fuel, send some money, and we'll shut the hell up for a year or so. Every 2 years, year or two, this is what would happen. But they weren't generally launching missiles and threatening to nuke Japan or anyone else. They didn't go quite that far, and they understood how important China was, and they certainly would never have threatened to nuke China, as Kim Jong-un has done. He's threatening to nuke the only friend in the world he has, the country that feeds him, clothes him, and supplies all his fuel. He's threatening to nuke them. This man is completely unhinged. He's unwired, and he's not sane. He's nuts. Okay? Khrushchev was not nuts. Khrushchev was a highly intelligent man. Whether you liked his policies or whether the fact he was a communist, no question about it. But he was an honest communist. He believed in communism. He really did. But Khrushchev was a very, very smart man. He was acting in his own mind in the best interest of his country. His situation was that we had placed nuclear missiles in Turkey. Those missiles had pretty much put the Soviet Union in a position where their ability to respond to an attack on them would have been greatly reduced. Our missiles in Turkey could have hit their missile sites in the Soviet Union, rendering them helpless to respond. He really had no choice. It wasn't a good decision to put those missiles there in the first place. And I think they were put there under the Eisenhower administration. So he had to get those missiles out of there. So that's why he put the missiles in Cuba. Khrushchev had no intention nor any desire to start World War III and have a nuclear war. Khrushchev understood that that would be the end of most life on this planet. He wasn't interested in destroying the world. He wasn't a nut. He wasn't insane. He wasn't crazy. He was none of those things. It was a political, geopolitical, strategic move to force Kennedy to get those missiles out of Turkey. And that's why he put the missiles in Cuba. And again, this is exactly, he got the result he wanted. He got the missiles out of Turkey, and he pulled his out of Cuba. And the situation was resolved. He accomplished what he wanted. So Khrushchev wasn't a nut. He was a very sane man, very smart man, by the way. Very, very smart man. And he did a pretty masterful job of working through that situation. You have to remember that he had a lot of hardliners who wanted him to, as soon as those missiles are put in Turkey, they said, hey, there goes our ability to respond. We cannot let those missiles be. We got to hit them now. And if it starts World War III, then let it rip. And Khrushchev was like, no. We're not going to start World War III. None of us will survive this. This is not what we're going to do. We're going to do something else. So he was a pretty brilliant political tactician, and he understood his situation where he was. He was in a very difficult situation with the hardliners pushing him really hard to launch nuclear attacks, but he didn't do it. So we're talking about two individuals, Kim Jong-un and Nikita Khrushchev. You cannot compare the two. They are completely 180 degrees the opposite. And again, the situation that all this is about, in the case of the Soviet Union, they were facing a situation where we had those missiles there in Turkey, and they simply could not allow them to be there. It would have eliminated their ability to respond. They had to get those missiles out of Turkey. Just like we could not allow those missiles to be in Cuba, because that took away our ability to respond. This is why he put them there. He was saying to Kennedy, look, the situation that you've created for us with your missiles in Turkey, we're going to give you that same situation in Cuba. See how you like it. That's exactly what he did. When you look at the situation going on with Kim Jong-un, it has nothing to do with any of that. North Korea has been protected by China forever. And they know, at least the two previous leaders, his father and grandfather, knew that we would never launch a war against North Korea. In fact, it was Eisenhower who negotiated the armistice there for the very reason that we did not want to go to that war in China. MacArthur did everything in the world he could to try to get Truman to do that war with China. It was Truman who said, no, we are not going to get into a nuclear exchange with China over the North Korean peninsula. Screw that. And so, we're dealing with completely different situations. You cannot compare a Cuban Missile Crisis to North Korea. And here's another thing. The Soviet Union, because they went on to the subject of the larger war, World War III, to compare World War I and World War II, in order to have world war, you're talking about at least two major powers facing off against one another and all their allies drug into it with them. This is not the case in North Korea. North Korea has no fucking allies. They've got China, but even China is squeezing them now. China is not their friend. North Korea is a pain in China's ass right now, and they would like it to go away. And if they could figure out how to make North Korea go away without having 25 million starving North Koreans pouring across their border that they have to feed, in addition to the 3.1 billion starving Chinese that they have to feed, they would probably be okay with it. They have good relations with South Korea. A reunited Korea doesn't bother the Chinese. It's just how it's done. They don't want a destabilization, which puts 25 million refugees pouring across their border. So they'd like to find a way to do it without it having to be a nuclear thing, and that's why they are squeezing North Korea so hard. But you don't have two major powers facing off against one another, which would be World War III. The Russians have no love for the North Koreans. They're certainly not going to jump in and defend North Korea. China certainly isn't. Even if we hit North Korea and China didn't exactly like it, they wouldn't do anything to jump in and defend North Korea. They would just immediately try to move on protecting their interest, and they would deal with that by dealing directly with South Korea under a unified Korea. So it's not World War III. Okay, Russia even, and when you look at world powers, so like I said, we don't have world powers and all their allies facing off against one another. Everybody is opposed to North Korea. Everybody knows, maybe the Iranians, but everyone else knows that Kim Jong-un has got to be dealt with one way or another, and sooner rather than later. No one doubts that. It's just how you get it done. How you get it done and have as few people killed on both sides, North and South Korea, and as few refugees as possible pouring across the borders into China. This is it. Really, Russia has interest, but they're not really military, geopolitical, strategic, or anything like that. They share a 17-mile border with North Korea. They have a $63 million in trade. There's no love for the North Koreans. Russia isn't going to step in and go to war with the United States to defend North Korea. So there are no superpowers involved. Therefore, no world war. It's crazy. It's insane. Stop it. So, anyway, that's my take and my rebuttal and my response to you, HA. I love you, brother. I do. I love your videos, man. You're an honest liberal. I'm a subscriber to your channel. I'll continue to watch your videos. Comment on your videos. I signed your petition to look at the DNC servers. I'm with you, brother. But come on, man. World War III? The Cuban Missile Crisis? Nah. Come on. Hey, I think you need to get a little more sleep, man. You've been doing a lot of videos. You're staying up real late. I understand that. I get all that. You got some of the bags on your eyes, the dark circles. I just think you need to get some rest. Sleep this one off. And I'm going to give you a pass on this one, HA. I'm going to let you go on this one because I think you're probably just a little bit tired. But no, there is no comparison whatsoever between the Cuban Missile Crisis and the North Korean crisis that's happening right now. Alrighty? You guys take care. Bye.